Okay, so yesterday we started with the reproductive system. Okay, we started with the reproductive system. I will just do a recap. Then we take up from where we got to yesterday. All right, so under reproductive system, we look at the concept of reproduction. Okay, and we learned that reproduction basically is a process through which living organisms produce new offspring. Is that okay? So production is the only process that help us to bring out or birth out new offsprings. Is that okay? Or other organisms that are just similar to our kind. Okay, is through the process of reproduction. Okay, and that ensures continuity of species. So if you take human beings, there is always existence of human beings because of reproduction. Because you see, every now and then, people fall sick, some will die along the line, but then because of reproduction, there is continuity of the human species. Is that okay? So it tells you that reproductive system and the concept of reproduction is very important to us as human species. Okay, now the importance of reproduction, like I said, it helps to maintain population stability. Is that okay? Reproduction helps to maintain population stability. Again, it also enables the transfer of genetic materials. Okay. Now, apart from reproduction process, is not just about maintaining human species. Okay. Through the process of reproduction, human beings are able to pass on their genetic materials from one generation to another generation. Is that okay? And all that is through the process of reproduction. Reproduction also supports the survival of human species, or it also supports the survival of species. Okay, reproduction also plays a central role in the process of evolution. Okay, and I also mentioned that when we say reproductive system, just like all the other systems that we've treated, anytime you hear a system, we are looking at a group of organs coming together to perform a particular function. Okay, now all the organs of the reproductive system put together, their main purpose is for the process of reproduction. Okay, so when all the organs of the reproductive system are put together, the main function they want to achieve is the process of reproduction. Is that okay? So we have several organs and structures, okay, that comes together. When they come together, the whole idea is to produce gametes. That is X. When we say the gametes, we are looking at the X. Okay, so for males, the gametes are the sperms. And then for females, the gametes are the X. So when in reproductive system, when you hear gametes, for males, we are looking at the sperms. For females, we are looking at the X. Okay, so when you hear gametes, that's what we mean. For males, the sperms. For females, the eggs. Okay. Reproduction also plays a role. Reproductive system also plays a role in fertilization. Is that okay? That's the fusion of the male and female sex cells. Okay. And I even mentioned that for the females, beyond the process of fertilization and the production of gametes, their reproductive system also plays a role in fetal development. Okay, fetal support and fetal development. In females, other that when we look at the human reproductive system, there's the only system in the human body that can create new life. Is that okay? So the reproductive system is the only system in the human body that can create. It has the ability to create new life. Is that okay? Great, great. So basically, when we say reproductive system, their main goal is the is for reproduction, fertilization, production of gametes, which for the males we have the sperms, females we have the eggs, okay, and also fetal development or fetal support and fetal development. Okay, then we looked at the organs of the reproductive system, and I mentioned that for the reproductive organs and we have the female reproductive organs. Okay, so that means that when we are looking at the organs of the male reproductive system, they are completely different. And we have organs of the female reproductive system completely different. Okay, good. Now let's re-look again at the organs of the male reproductive system. The organs of the male reproductive system. Okay, so this is a diagram of the organs of the male reproductive system. This is a diagram. Okay, so for the male reproductive system, we have the testis. So this is the testis. And the testis is the organ responsible for production of sperm. Okay, and the hormone testosterone. Okay, now the testis is what we call the male gonad. Okay, when we say male gonad, we are talking about the testis. Okay, or anytime you hear male gonad, they are talking about the testis. Okay, yes, so you can see the testis is located inside the scrotum, and this is the organ that is responsible for what? Production of sperm and the hormone testosterone. Okay, then we have the epididymis. This is the epididymis, this structure. So this structure you are seeing over here, this is what we call the epididymis. Okay, the epididymis. Now, the epididymis is a structure that is responsible for the storage of the sperm and maturation of the sperm. So, when the sperms are produced in the testis, they are moved into the epididymis to be stored and matured in the epididymis. Okay, so this is what we call the epididymis. Okay, from the epididymis, we have the vas deferens. The vas deferens. Okay, the vas deferens is a structure or a longitudinal tube kind of a structure that is responsible for the transport of the sperm from the epididymis to the urethra. Okay, so we have the testis. What does it do? That is what produces the sperm. After producing the sperm moves into the epididymis to be stored. So the epididymis is the structure that stores the sperm. Okay, and matures the sperm. Maturation of the sperm also takes place in the epididymis. From there, it is sent into the vas deferens to be transported to the urethra. So the vas deferens is the structure that transports the sperm. Okay, transport the sperm from the epididymis to the urethra. Okay, then we have the seminal vesicles. Okay, the seminal vesicles. Yes, so the seminal vesicles, all they do is that they produce the seminal fluid. And this seminal fluid, what it does is, this fluid nourishes the sperm. Okay, so the seminal vesicles produces the seminal fluid. Add it to the sperm so that it nourishes the sperm. And then it forms what we call semen. Is that okay? So when the testis produces the sperm, it moves into the epididymis. It is transported from the vas deferens, okay, into the urethra. Then at this very area, the seminal vesicle also produces the seminal fluid. Add it to the sperm so that it becomes semen. Okay, so when we say a semen, when you've added seminal fluid to the sperm, then it becomes what? A semen. Okay, now we also spoke about the prostate gland. Okay, the prostate gland. The prostate gland also produces the prostatic fluid. Okay, it produces a fluid. And what that fluid does is that it helps the semen to move and survive. It helps with motility of the semen. And it also helps with movement. And it also plays a role in the survival of the semen. Then we have the penis. Okay, we have the penis. The penis is what delivers the semen into the female reproductive system. Okay, the penis, that is what delivers the semen into the female reproductive system. Then we have the urethra. The urethra carries the semen and urine out of the body. Okay, so the work of the urethra is to carry, it carries semen and urine out of the body. Is that okay? Yes. So that's the urethra. Okay, so you see the urethra have dual function. It has a dual function. It carries urine from the bladder to the outside of the body. And we discussed that in the urinary system. Is that okay? When it comes to reproductive system, so you see the urethra is a structure in the reproductive system and it's also a structure in the urinary system. Is that okay? Great. So the urethra carries semen and urine out of the body. Okay, then we have the scrotum. This is the scrotum. So this is the scrotum. So the scrotum holds and protects the testes. So if we ask you which structure or which organ holds and protects the testes, that's the scrotum. Which structure holds and protects the testes, that's the scrotum. Okay, good. Which structure carries semen and urine to the outside of the body, that's the urethra. Is that okay? Which structure is responsible for storage and maturation of the sperm? Epididymis. Okay. Which structure produces the sperm? And then the hormone testosterone. That's the male gonad, which we call the testis. Is that okay? Which structure produces the seminal fluids that nourishes the sperm to form the semen? Which structure is that? The seminal vesicles. Is that okay? Which structure delivers the semen into the female reproductive system? That's the penis. Okay, so basically, these are the organs of the male reproductive system. Okay, these are the organs of the male reproductive system. I think I have more images over here. So this more like the external, structures of the male reproductive system. Okay, so we have this how the male reproductive system looks like. The external structures. Okay, so we have the roots. Okay, this area is called the root of the penis. Please, can you all see my slide?
Yes, sir.
Excellent, great. It's good that you can see my slide. Yes. So we have the root of the penis. Is that okay? This area. Okay, the part of the penis is more like the junction of the penis that is in attachment with the male's, the male's body. That area is what we call the root of the penis. Okay, so this area is what we call the root of the penis. Okay, then we have the body of the penis or the shaft of the penis. So this is called the body or the shaft of the penis. Okay, so we have the root of the penis, we have the body of the penis or the shaft of the penis. Okay, and then we have the foreskin. Usually, if you are looking at the penis, you see an area that appears to be retracted. Okay, we call it the foreskin or the retracted region of the penis. Okay, so this area, okay, this area, we call it the foreskin or the retracted region of the penis. Then we have the glans penis. This part, we call it the glans penis. Is that okay? The glans penis. This part is what we call the glans penis. The glans penis. Now, don't worry about these diagrams. There are some labels in this very diagram that are not appropriate. The reason why I have this diagram here, I want to show you the spermatic cord. That is why I still maintain it over here. But there are some labels on this diagram that are not correct. Okay, yes. But I have it here because of the spermatic cord. So just pay attention to just the spermatic cord. Okay, great. So we have this is the scrotum. This is the scrotum. Okay, this is the scrotum. Okay, so we have the roots of the penis. We have the body of the penis or the shaft. We have the foreskin. We have the glans penis. Okay, and then we have the scrotum. Okay, so this diagram, this label is not correct. So this is the glans penis. So here is the glans penis, and this one is rather the body or the shaft of the penis. Okay, so this label is not correct. Okay, and then this is the prepuce of the penis or the foreskin. This one is correct. Okay, the foreskin is correct, or the retracted area. That one is correct. Okay, great. So then we have the external urethral meatus. So you see, if you are looking at the glans penis, you see an opening at the tip. Is that okay? This one, this opening, if you are looking at the glans penis, you are going to see an opening at the tip. That opening, we call it the external urethral meatus. Okay, so this one, you see, you can look at it over here. We call it the external urethral meatus. Okay, and remember that I mentioned that this part is called the body of the penis. This one is the body of the penis. And this one is rather the glans penis. This one is rather the glans penis. Okay, so that is what is here. But more interesting, what I want to show you is the spermatic cord. Okay, the spermatic cord. Okay, now the spermatic cord, you see all the tubes that are entering the testis or the scrotum, all of them are in one tube. That tube is called the spermatic cord. So remember, you see the vast difference. Look at the vast difference. You see on this diagram, you are only seeing the vast difference. But it's not only the vast difference that enters the testis. So along the vast difference, we have another tube. We have blood vessels also entering along the vast difference. We have nerves also entering the testis along the vast difference. Now, all of them are in one tube. We call that tube spermatic cord. So you see, so look at it over here. So you see, look at it. You see the spermatic cord. So the spermatic cord is like a single cord that contains the vast difference, the blood vessels going to the testis, and the nerve going into the testis. That's the spermatic cord. Is that okay? If you are not careful, you may get confused. You will be like, what's the difference between spermatic cord? What's the difference between spermatic cord? If you are not careful, you'll be like, what's the difference between spermatic cord and vas difference? So the difference is what I've explained. So the vas difference enters. In addition to the vas difference, blood vessels also enter. In addition to the blood vessels, nerves also enter. All of them are in one cord. You see, sometimes when they are building a house, it's like a lot of wires. Then they put all of them in one pipe. That's how it looks like. So all the vas difference, the nerve going to supply the testis, the blood vessels going into the testis, all of them are in one particular tube. We call it the spermatic cord, just like this. Is that okay? And this is that cord. Is that okay? So this is how the cord looks like. So you see, we have the blood vessels inside the cord. We have the vas difference also inside. And then we have nerves also inside the cord. So when we say spermatic cord, the spermatic cord is like a single cord that contains the vas difference, the blood vessels supplying that going to the testis, and then the nerves that are going to supply the testis. That's the spermatic cord. Is that okay? So it contains the vas difference, the blood vessels, and the nerves. So if we ask you what's the difference between the vas difference and the spermatic cord, what will be your answer? Yes, what's the difference between the vas difference and the spermatic cord?
So the vast difference, it transports the sperm from the epididymis to the urethra.
Good,
But
excellent.
the somatic cord contains the vast difference, blood vessels, and the nerves. That's how it
Good.
lies the testis.
That is great. Yes, that's great. Good. So over here too we have the scrotum. So you can see the testis. So this is the testis, and like I mentioned, the testis produces the sperm and testosterone. Okay, then we have the scrotum. The scrotum is like a skin-covered sac, or it's like more like a sac-like structure. You can say a sac-like structure that contains what? The testis. Okay, so when we say scrotum, a sac-like structure that contains what? The testis. That's the scrotum. Is that okay? So basically, this is the male reproductive organs and structures. So when we ask you to list the male reproductive organs and structures, you are going to say we have the testis, we have the epididymis, we have the vas difference, and then we have the spermatic cord. Okay, we have the scrotum, we have the penis, we have the prostate gland. Is that okay? Yes, we have the urethra, okay, and then the seminal vesicles. These are the organs of the male reproductive system, and at least know their primary functions, even though we are going to look at them into details, but basically know their primary functions. Is that okay? Yes. So at least know the testis, what does it do? Produces sperm and the hormone testosterone. Okay. Epididymis, what does it do? It stores and matures the sperm. Vas deferens, what does it do? You should know the functions. Seminal vesicles, what does it do? It adds fluids that nourishes the sperm to form semen. Prostate gland, what does it? It produces the prostatic fluid that also helps with the sperm motility and survival of the sperm, of the semen. Sorry. The penis, what does it do? It delivers semen into the female reproductive system. The urethra, what does it do? It carries semen and urine out of the body. Scrotum, what does it do? It goes and protects the testes and keeps them at the right temperature. So if you know, basically, you should know the basic functions of all the structures, and you should be competent at labeling all of them. Yes, because in anatomy, every diagram is examinable. So you should be competent and familiar with all the labels. Is that we can either external, this diagram to label the diagram. Okay, so the roots, the body, the foreskin, the glands, the scrotum is out. So basically, these are the organs of the reproductive system. Then we have the female reproductive organs. What are the reproductive system? Do you remember?
Yes, sir.
Yes, what are the organs of the female reproductive system?
We have the ovary,
Okay.
the uterus,
Okay.
cervix, the vagina, vulva,
Okay.
and the breast
Okay.
or the mammary glands.
Okay.
Yeah. We are done.
Okay, that is fine. That is fine. So basically, that is it. So, all right. So, what is a cervix? When we say cervix, what did we say about cervix yesterday?
It's the lower part of the uterus that opens to the vagina.
Good. A lower portion of the uterus that opens into the vagina. All right. What did we say about eternal os?
It's the
They are
opening
the
of
upper opening of the cervical canal that connects the cervix.
Is the opening of what?
It is the upper opening of the cervical canal that connects to the cervix.
Oh, come again. I didn't get it too. Please come again.
The internal os is the upper opening of the cervical canal that connects to the cervix.
Do you agree?
It's the upper opening of the uterus into the cervix.
Come again.
You
The
said
upper
the
opening
upper
of the.
uterus into the cervix.
Good. This is the best definition. Yes, this is the best definition. Yes, because if you are defining eternal os, you should emphasize on the uterus to enhance the understanding. Well, if you limit your explanation only to cervix, it becomes unclear. Is that okay? Yes. Yes. So because when we are looking at the eternal os is more like an opening between the uterus and the cervix. So in explaining, you should emphasize on the uterus. Okay, how about the external os?
It is the opening of the cervix into the vagina.
Good. Yes. Yes. The opening of the cervix into the vagina. That is excellent. Yes. So these are the organs or structures of the female reproductive system. So we have the ovaries, we have fallopian tubes, we have the uterus, we have the cervix, we have the vagina, we have the vulva, we have the mammary glands. Okay, so these are basically the organs of the reproductive system. So we have the ovaries, we have the fallopian, the uterus, we have the cervix, we have the vagina, we have the vulva, we have mammary glands. Okay, so look at it over here. So this is the at the low of the is that so this is that this so there are opening of uterus in the space. That's where we have the internal os. and then the opening of cervix into the vagina. That's where we have the external os. Is okay. Then we have the body of the uterus. So this is the uterus itself. Is that okay? This is called the uterus. Is that okay? And these are fallopian tubes. Also, another name for the fallopian tubes.
Uterine tubes.
Yes, uterine tubes. Uterine tubes. Good. So, and these are the ovaries. So we have the right ovary and we have the left ovary over here. How many layers do the uterus have? How many layers?
3.
Okay, what's the name given to the inner layer?
Endometrium.
Endometrium.
Good, excellent. Good. We have the endometrium. That's the innermost layer, the endometrium. How about the middle layer?
Myometrium.
Myometrium. Now you see the innermost layer, we call it endometrium. The reason is because it contains a lot of blood. It's fortified with a lot of blood. So, yes, it's fortified with a lot of blood. Good. And then we have the middle layer, myometrium. Why myometrium? It's made up of muscles. Okay, then the outermost layer is the perimetrium. It's not labeled over here, but keep it in your mind that the outermost layer of the uterus is called perimetrium. Okay, great. Then we have, good, so that's the uterus. Then we have the vaginal over here. Okay, we have the vagina. Okay, now let's move on. So we have over here too, we have more diagram. So we have the endometrium. So if we ask you, the innermost layer of the uterus is called endometrium. The middle layer of the uterus is called myometrium. The outermost layer of the uterus is called perimetrium. Is that okay? Great. And then these are the uterine tubes. So again, so how many uterine tubes do we have?
3.
Good. We have 2 uterine tubes, please. We have 2 uterine tubes. There are 2. So we have the right uterine tube and then the left uterine tubes. How many ovary do we have?
We have 2 ovaries.
Good. We have the right ovary. We have the left ovary. Okay, so there are 2. Good. So this diagram is also showing the vulva. Okay, this diagram is also showing the vulva. Okay, and remember I mentioned that the mammary gland is also part of the female reproductive system. Okay, so this diagram is showing the vulva. Okay, so we have, so the the female reproductive organs. We have the uterus, we have the cervix, we have the mammary glands. Okay, we have the fallopian tubes, we have the vagina, the vulva, and the ovaries. Okay, great. So this is the female external reproductive organs. So when we say female external reproductive organs, these are the organs. So basically, when we say female external reproductive organs, we are talking about the vulva. So if we ask you to draw the female external reproductive organs, we want you to draw the vulva. Is that okay? So that one you not ask, it's straight. Okay, so in anatomy, when we say female external reproductive organs or external female reproductive organs, we are talking about the vulva. Is that okay? Great. Or in some books, they will say anatomy of the vulva is the same as female external reproductive organs or external female reproductive organs. Please keep it in your mind though. So if you hear external female reproductive organs or anatomy of the vulva, is the same thing. Is that okay? Yes. And this is that anatomy that we are talking about. Is that okay? Okay. So over here we have the mons pubis. Okay. And the mons pubis is like the fatty tissue over the pubic bone. So if you are looking at the female, the pubic area closer to the vulva, that is the mons pubis. Okay, if you want to look at it here, this part is what we call, over here, this part is what we call the mons pubis, where we have the hairlines, the hairs and those things, getting closer to the vulva. That's the mons pubis. Okay, then we have the clitoris. Okay, the clitoris. The clitoris is basically an erectile sensory organ. When we say clitoris, it's an erectile sensory organ. Okay, it's an erectile sensory organ. And this is the clitoris. This one. And this one is the clitoris. In fact, the clitoris in itself has parts. Okay, the clitoris too have parts. We have the shaft of the clitoris, okay, which is usually hidden. We have the hood of the clitoris. Is that okay? We have the hood of the clitoris, more like the upper portion of the clitoris. That's the hood. Is that okay? We also have the glans of the clitoris, more like the pointed or the protruded clitoris itself. That's the glans of the clitoris. Is that okay? Great. And you know the vulva has lips. Okay, it's having lips, more like lips. And the lips is what we call if you are looking at the vulva, it's more like a lip. It's more like lips. And the lips is what we call the labia. Okay, so when we say labia majora, it's more like the upper lip. And then the labia minora is more like the lower lip. Is that okay? So the lips are what we call the labia. So the labia is more like the body of the vulva that is closest to the female's body. So the body of the vulva closer. So this one. So if you are looking at this part, is what we call, this portion will be called the labia majora here. So you see from here, you are going to the female's body, more like the thigh. Okay, so this portion here, this portion is what we call the labia majora. Okay, then this part itself here, this part itself is the labia minora. In other words, you can call it the inner lips. If you like, you can call it the inner lips. And this one, you can call it the outer, the labia majora. You can call it the outer lips. Is that okay? The outer lips, this part. You can call it the outer lips, or you can call it the labia majora. And then the labia minora, you can call it the inner lips. All of them put together, we call them labial. Okay, or you can call them lips. Is that okay? Great. Then we have the urethral opening. So here is the urethral opening. Here, this is the urethral opening. Urethral opening. And that's where the urine comes out, the passage for urine to the external parts of the body. Is that okay? Then we have, so over here, we have the vaginal opening to over here, vaginal opening. Or you can call it introitus. Introitus. Okay, that's the opening into the vaginal canal. Okay, so if you are looking at the vulva or the anatomy of the vulva, the opening into the vaginal canal, that opening is what we call introitus. Or you can call it vaginal opening. Either you call it introitus or vaginal opening. Is that okay? Great. So let me go over it for the last time. This is the anatomy of the vulva. So here we call it the mons pubis, and this is the clitoris. The clitoris is also an erectile sensory organ. The clitoris, erectile sensory organ. And I told you the upper portion of the clitoris, we call it the hood of the clitoris. Is that okay? So we have the hood of the clitoris. Okay, we have the glans of the clitoris. Okay, good. And then we even have the shaft of the clitoris. So more like the upper portion of the clitoris that is going to join the mons pubis, that upper line. That place is what we call the shaft of the clitoris. Okay, so we have the shaft of the clitoris, we have the hood of the clitoris, we have the glans of the clitoris, we have the urethral opening. Okay, and then I told you we have the labia majora and labia minora. The labia majora and labia minora, they are like folds in the vulva, or you can call them lips. Now, the folds that are closest to the woman's body. So this one is what we call the labia majora. You see, this very one is going to connect to the woman's thigh. So this is the first fold, and this is the outer fold. You can call it outer fold or outer lip or labia majora. Outer fold, outer lip or labia majora. Then the innermost fold is the inner lip, or you can call it labia minora. Is that? Then we have the vaginal opening. Now, if the person is a virgin, you see hymen covering the vaginal opening, the hymen. Okay, and if it is present, you are going to see the hymen at this area. Is out. And the vaginal opening is what we also call the introitus. That's the vaginal opening. Okay. Then over here within the lower portion of the vulva, we have two glands over there. We call them the Bartholin's glands. The Bartholin's glands. They are responsible for secreting the lubrication fluid during sexual intercourse. You see, during coitus, during sexual intercourse, you see at a point, the woman gets wet. The fluid, the secretion, they comes from the Bartholin's glands. Okay, they are responsible for producing the secretion or secreting the lubricating fluid during sexual intercourse. We call it the Bartholin's glands. Okay, so there are two, and they are located at the lower portions of the vulva. Is that okay? Then over here, you see we have the anal canal over here. The anal canal over here. Okay, the anal canal is over here. We have the anal canal over here. Now, between the here, you see, look at the lower portions of the lower where the labia minora meets. You see the labia minora, we have some over here, and we have some over here. Where they meet over here, where the minora, where the labia minora meets down here, this point we call the forehead. Let me show you the spelling here. This point, you see, where the minora is meeting. You see, there's the minora. Where they are meeting down here, we call it the forehead. Forehead. Here, this point. Is that okay? You can also look at it over here. So you see the minora. There's the minora. This one is the minora, the labia minora. Where they are meeting at this point, where they are meeting at the lower part or the downmost part of the vulva, this point, this region, we call it the forehead. Okay, the forehead. Okay, great. And then, so let's come back to the Bartholin's gland. So this is the Bartholin's gland. This one is the Bartholin's gland. This is what we call the Bartholin's gland. There are two, the right Bartholin's gland and then the left Bartholin's gland. What does it do? It produces lubrication fluids during sexual intercourse. Is that okay? Great. So you can also look at this diagram. At least it will help you to. On top of the clitoris, the portion of the vulva getting closer to the mons pubis, we call it the prepuce of the clitoris. This area, prepuce of the clitoris, prepuce. You can see it better over here. This area, prepuce. If you want to look at it on the rail, this one is what we call the prepuce, where I'm pointing right now. This area, this is the prepuce of the clitoris. Okay. So the more like the outermost part of the clitoris that is going to join the mons pubis. That's the prepuce of the clitoris, this area. And this is the clitoris itself. And you can see a portion of the clitoris is going inside. That's the hood of the clitoris. Is that okay? Great. So here is the prepuce, here is the clitoris itself, and here is the glans, more like the tip, the very tip of the clitoris. The protruded region of the clitoris. That's the glans of the clitoris. Is that okay? That's the glans of the clitoris. Okay, great. So, and I mentioned that this part where the labia minora and the where the labia minora joins at the lower portion of the vulva. What's the name given to that area? This area. What's the name?
Worship.
The forehead.
Yes, forehead. Yes, forehead. And then the region of the clitoris that is very closer to the mons pubis. What's the name? This area. What's the name given to this area? Yes, that's the prepuce. Okay, that's the prepuce. And then the very tip of the clitoris. What's the name?
The glans of the clitoris.
Oh, that's the glans of the clitoris. That's the glans of the clitoris. Is that okay? That's the glans of the clitoris. Great. And so you can see, so over here, you can see the vestibule. Okay, the vestibule. So the vestibule is like an area of tissue between, so you can see an area of tissue between the urethral meatus or the urethral opening and then the vaginal opening. Here, this area. Okay, this area is what we call the vestibule. On the rail, you can see it over here. On the real, you can see it over here. In some books, they will also say an area of tissue between the labia minora and the labia majora. That is also fine. Okay. So over here, you can see the vestibule labeled over here. So you can see this is the vestibule, an area of tissue between the urethral opening. So here is it, this area. Okay, this area, this is the vestibule. So the area between the urethral meatus and then the vaginal opening. That's the vestibule. In some books, they also say the vestibule is the area of tissue between the minora and the majora. Okay, or an area of tissue within the labia minora. Is that okay? That's the vestibule. So here is it. And the Bartholin's glands. What's the function of the Bartholin's glands?
For lubrication during sexual intercourse.
It produces secretions that are responsible for lubrications during sexual intercourse. Okay, which one is the frenulum of the clitoris? Let me say frenulum of the clitoris. Which one is the frenulum of the clitoris? Yes, who have an idea? But can you see it on the diagram?
It seems like under the clitoris, that side.
Have you all seen it on the diagram? So over here, we have it over here. This is the frenulum of the clitoris. And over here, too, this is the frenulum of the clitoris. But what can you say about it? What can you say? What are you seeing? In anatomy, you say what you see. You say what you are seeing. What are you seeing the label? What are you seeing with regards to the frenulum of the clitoris? Where is it located? Where are you seeing it located directly from the diagram?
Sir, please, it looks like a small opening at the tip of the clitoris.
Oh, the frenulum is not an opening. It's more like the under of the clitoris. That's what we call the frenulum. When we say frenulum, it's the underside of the clitoris. That's what we call the frenulum. So when we say frenulum of the clitoris, then we are saying the underside of the clitoris. Is that okay? So you can see, so you see, this is the clitoris. So the under of the clitoris is the frenulum. Is that, and the prepuce is the upper of the clitoris. So when we say prepuce, then the upper of the clitoris. When we say frenulum, the under of the clitoris. So when we say prepuce of the clitoris, it means the upper part of the clitoris. Then the glans of the clitoris is the clitoris itself. Then the under of the clitoris is called the frenulum of the clitoris. Is that okay? Great. Yes. Then we have, okay, so then we have the foresheet. Which area is the perineum? Which area is called the perineal area or perineum? Which area do we call the perineum?
The outer layer of the uterus.
No.
It is the space between the anal and the vulva.
Good. So it's the space between the vulva and then the anal canal or the anus. So this area, look, this area. So look on the real diagram. This area is what we call the perineum. Is that okay? This area is what we call the perineum. This area is what we call the perineum. Or you can say perineal body. You can call it the perineal body or the perineum. This area is what we call the perineal body or the perineum. What is the name given to this area where I'm pointing now? This area.
The foresheet.
The foresheet. The foresheet.
Okay.
Is that okay? The foresheet. What's the name given to this area where I'm pointing now? Look at where I'm pointing.
Labia
Majora or labia majora or
the external lips.
The outer lips or it has about 3 names. Outer fold Outer fold. Okay, what's the name given to the part I'm pointing now? Look at the part I'm pointing now.
It's the labia minora.
Labia minora. Or
The
Um,
inner lips.
inner
inner
lip,
lips. Or
inner folds.
inner folds. Excellent. What's the name given to the part I'm pointing now? Look at the part I'm pointing now.
Prepuce.
Prepuce.
Okay. Okay, prepuce. Okay, what's the name given to the part I'm pointing now?
That's the glands of the clitoris.
Good. You can say that's the clitoris itself or the glans of the clitoris. Is correct. Is that okay? What's the name given to the part I'm pointing now? Look at the part I'm pointing now. Look at the part I'm pointing.
Says that the hooch.
No,
Urethral.
no, that's not the urethral opening. That's the under of the clitoris. That's the lower side of the clitoris. That's the frenulum.
Okay.
Once we point under the clitoris, that's the frenulum. Is that over on this diagram? You can't see the urethra. You see, it's more like the lips, the labia, the inner lip is covering the urethral opening. So on this diagram, you can't see the urethral opening on this diagram, but the urethral opening can be seen on this diagram. That's the urethral meatus. Is that okay? Are you appreciating the diagram?
Yes, please.
Okay, that is fine. Okay. So basically that is it for the female reproductive. And this is what we call the vulva. There was a time students have to draw and label this diagram. And it was so interesting, even some of the ladies couldn't draw the vulva. Yes, there was a badge that they have to draw and label the vulva. It was very interesting that some ladies couldn't even draw the vulva. Yes, and I don't think that shouldn't happen to you. Yes, so master how to draw and label the vulva. Okay, so there's the functions of the female reproductive organ. So now you know the ovaries. The ovaries are that's the organ that produces the egg, or how we call the ova, or the female gamete. Is that okay? The female gamete, that's the eggs or the ova. Okay, and they also produce the female hormones like the estrogen and then the progesterone. The fallopian tubes, what does it do? They carry the egg from the ovaries to the uterus, and that is where fertilization also happens. So if we ask you where does fertilization happens in the female reproductive system, that's the fallopian tubes. Okay, the uterus. How about the uterus? What's the function of the uterus? That's where the fertilized egg gets implanted. Okay, and that's where the baby grows. Okay, and receive all the nourishment, the nutrition, the blood that it needs. The cervix, that's the lower part of the uterus that opens into the vagina, and it's also a passageway of sperm and also menstrual blood, and also it's a passageway of the baby during childbirth. The same thing applies to the vagina. The vagina is a muscular canal for menstrual flow, for sexual intercourse, and also for childbirth. Is that okay? Great. Then we have the vulva. That's the external, female reproductive anatomy. When we say the vulva, we are looking at the external female reproductive anatomy. And the vulva protects the female reproductive system. It's not, don't see it as a structure just there doing nothing. No, it's a protective organ. It's a protective structure. It protects the female reproductive system. Okay, great. So it protects the internal organs of the female reproductive system. Is that okay? Great. Then we have the breast and the mammary glands. So these are the breast and the mammary glands, also part of the female reproductive system. Is that okay? So basically, we've done an overview of the female reproductive and male reproductive anatomy. Is that okay? Yes. So let's now try and specialize in some of the major organs of the male reproductive system. And I know you already know the male reproductive system. It consists of, we have the internal and external organs that work together to produce, nourish, and transport sperm. Now, the main function of the male reproductive system is spermatogenesis, production of the male sex hormones, and facilitation of sexual intercourse. So that's the main function of the male reproductive system. For spermatogenesis is about the production of sperms. Okay. Now, the production of male sex hormones, which is the testosterone, and again for sexual intercourse. So the male reproductive system basically has three functions: production of sperms, production of the male sex hormones, and also sexual intercourse. Okay, then these are the organs. We have the testis, we have the epididymis, we have the vas deferens, we have the seminal vesicles, we have the prostate gland, bulbourethral glands, we have the penis, we have the urethra, and we have the scrotum. We've looked at this already. Okay, so just an overview. Now let's start with the testis. You all know where the testis is located. What's the function of the testis? Yes,
It
what's the
produces
function of the
sperm.
Good?
It
It
produces
produces the male
sperm
gametes, or what we call the sperms.
and
Okay, and is it only the sperms?
no, the hormones.
God, it produces male sex hormones, the
Hormones.
testosterone. Is that okay? It produces the male sex hormones, the testosterone. The male sex hormones, which is the testosterone. Is that okay? Please, are you following?
Yes, sir.
Good, excellent. Good. So we have the testis. So the testis basically produces the male sex hormones. It also produces the male gametes, which is the sperms. Okay. Good. Now, there is an interesting thing about the testis. Now, one thing you should note is that the testes basically form in fetal abdomen. Okay. So whilst the fetus, by the time the fetus has gotten to a male, so when a male is developing in the mother's womb, during the 28th week of intrauterine life, that is the time that the testis is formed. That is very interesting thing to know. It's a very interesting thing to know. It's not like we give birth to a man before the testis forms. So, no. The testis forms in the fetal abdomen by 28th week of intrauterine life. So what that means is that by the time a pregnant woman gets pregnant, up to 28th week of the pregnancy, that is the time that the testis form, provided the fetus is a male. It's a male sex fetus. The testis forms by the 28th week in the intrauterine life. Now, they descend into the scrotum before birth. So before the male child is born, at a certain point, the testis has to descend into the scrotum. But there are times that failure, there can be failure of the testis to descend. And that condition, we call it cryptochidism. Say it after me. Say cryptochidism.
Cryptogenesis.
Cryptochidism.
Cryptochidism.
Good. So, and the midwives, please, the midwives, these points, take them serious. Don't play with these points. These areas are very important to you, the midwives. Okay, so when a woman conceives a male child and the pregnancy gets to the 28th week, that is the time that the testis begins to form. Now, but before the woman delivers, the testes have to descend. Usually the testis is in the abdomen. When it forms in the abdomen. But before the child comes out, the male child comes out, the testes have to descend into the scrotum. But there are times that will not happen. It won't occur. When it doesn't descend into the scrotum before the male child is born and remains there, that condition, we call it cryptochidism. And if this male child grow, imagine having your testes. Imagine that you are having your testes in your abdomen. If this male child grow, this male child will become infertile. That's why a midwife, when a woman delivers a male child, as part of your assessment, assess the scrotum to check whether the testis is there. You have to assess, hold it gently to check whether the testis is there. If it is not there, it means that it's still in the abdomen, meaning the child is having cryptochidism. And that child can become infertile. So usually you have to quickly report to the doctor so that if they can do something about it quickly, they do something about it. Is that okay? Yeah. So if they ask you what is cryptochidism, you explain, okay, the testis, when the male child is in the uterus, usually it's in the abdomen. Before the woman delivers the male child, the testes have to descend from the abdomen into the scrotum. But sometimes it fails to descend. That condition is what we call cryptochidism. Say it again. Say cryptochidism.
Cryptochidism.
Good. Cryptochidism. Yes. You call it cryptochidism. Is that okay? And why do you think cryptochidism can cause infertility? Why do you think? Because if the
Because
testis is there and it's in the abdomen, so the man should be able to produce. But why do you think cryptochidism will cause infertility? Yes, who can answer that question? Why do you think if the testis fails to descend from the abdomen into the scrotum, the person would become infertile? Why do you think so?
the abdomen is not the right place for the testes to be.
Not really. You have a point, but not really. That's not the
Sir,
main point. Uh-huh.
sir,
It
please, because it's not having a favorable temperature
Good.
condition.
This is the best answer.
Wow.
Yes, this is the best answer. Yes, because in the abdomen, the right temperature for testis, for the production of the sperm is not there. Is that okay? Because if the testis is there, if it's just about the location, if it's just about the location, then the abdomen, the testis can be there and still produce. It's about the right temperature. Okay, the scrotum is the only organ that produces the right, because you see the scrotum is sort of separated from your main body. Your abdomen, the internal temperature is very high, and that's why your scrotum is separated, lower part of your body, and that part produces the right temperature for the production of the sperm. Is that okay? And that's how come if the testis fails to descend into the scrotum, the person will grow and become what? Infertile. Okay, so it's very important that to you as a midwife, when you deliver a baby, a male child, assess the scrotum to find out whether the testis descended. Is that okay? Uh-huh. Great. So basically, that is it for them. Okay. Now let's look at the size of the testis. In fact, in terms of the shape of the testis, it is oval in shape, about 4 centimeters long. The weight is about 2.5 centimeters, and the thickness is about 3 centimeters. And it weighs about 10 to 14 grams. Okay, so each of them weighs about 10 to 14 grams. Okay, so take note of the shape and the dimensions. So the length is about 4 centimeters. The width is about 2.5 centimeters. The thickness is about 3 centimeters. And each of them weighs about 10 to 14 grams. Is that okay? Great. Now, let's go to, so you see, the testis is an organ. You see, I told you that anytime we are talking about organs, it means that organ, we have a cell in it. So let's go and look at the cells in the testis. Now, in the testis, so the microscopic structure of the testis is dominated by semiferous tubules. Okay, so inside the testis, we have two structures there. One of them we call the semiferous tubules. Now, this semiferous tubules is what produces the sperms. And then we have some cells in there. We call those cells the Sertoli cells. Okay, so these tubules are lined with germinal epithelia containing germ cells that develop into sperm and Sertoli cells. Okay, and these cells support and regulate development. Again, Sertoli cells also form the blood testis barrier. Let me show you it on a diagram. So look at how the testis looks like. So this is the testis. So within the testis, this is what we call the semiferous tubules. Say it after me. Say semiferous tubules. So say semiferous tubules.
Semiferous.
Semiferous tubules.
Good, semiferous tubule. So this is what we call the semiferous tubule. So you can see a lot of semiferous tubules inside. Okay, over here too, there's the testis. So you can see inside we have the semiferous tubules. These are the semiferous. This is also a semiferous tubule. This is also a semiferous tubule. This is also a semiferous tubule. This one too is a semiferous tubule. Is that okay? Yes. So the semiferous tubules are inside the testis. So we are saying we have the semiferous tubules, and then we have germinal epithelium. Okay, or you can say germinal epithelial cells. Okay, or some books they call it the germ cells. Okay, and it's the germ cells that develops into what? Into the sperms. Okay, so we have is dominated by semiferous tubules where the sperm production takes place. And like I mentioned, this semiferous tubules contains the germ cells. Okay, and the germ cells is what develops into sperms and Sertoli cells. Okay, and the Sertoli cells is what forms the the blood testis barrier, and that is what develops to protects the developing sperm from immune attacks. Now, between the tubules, we have the Leydig cells, and the Leydig cells is what produces the testosterone. Okay, so let me take you back to the diagram. So here, this is the semiferous tubules. All we are saying is that inside these semiferous tubules, okay, we have germinal cells. Okay, the germinal cells is what produces the sperm, and the germinal cells also produces what we call the Sertoli cells. Is that okay? So can you all see the semiferous tubules? Can you all see the semiferous tubules? So we have
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Four,
6,
five,
7.
6, 7.
What do we have in the semiferous tubules? The germinal cells. If we ask you, what do we have in the semiferous tubules? The germinal cells. What's the work of the germinal cells? It's the germinal cells that produces the sperm. But apart from that, the germinal cells also produce another cell. We call it the Sertoli cells. Is that okay? What's the work of the Sertoli cells? The Sertoli cells also produce it produces immune cells that protects the sperm. You see how interesting the thing is? It's very interesting. So we have the semiferous tubules. What is within the germinal cells? What does it do? It produces the sperm. So if we ask you, where in the testes are the sperms produced? It's the semiferous tubules. What produces it? The germinal cells. So the germinal cells are inside the semiferous tubules. That is what produces the sperm. But it's not only the sperm. It also produces the Sertoli cells. What does the Sertoli cells produce? They produce immune cells that protect the sperm. Is that okay? Great. And they also end up forming what we call the blood testis barrier. Is that okay? Now they are saying that in between the semiferous, can you see we have spaces in between the semiferous tubules? Now, in between the semiferous tubules, we have what we call the Leydig cells. Say Leydig cells. Say it after me. Say Leydig cells.
Leydig cells.
Leydig cells. Or say interstitial cells. You can also call it interstitial cells. Say interstitial cells.
Interstitial
Interstitial
cells.
cells.
Interstitial cells, that is what produces the male sex hormones. That's the testosterone. Is that okay? So let me do you a simple exercise. What do we have in the semiferous tubules? What do we have in the semiferous tubules?
Germinal
Germinal
cells.
epithelium.
Good. So in the semiferous tubules, we have the germinal epithelial cells. Okay, or the germinal cells. What's the function of the germinal cells?
It produces sperm.
It produces sperm.
Is it only sperms it produce?
No,
Eh,
Sertolin
Sertoli.
cell
Good. So it produces the sperms and the Sertoli
and
cells.
the Sertolin cell.
Okay. Good. What's the function of the Sertoli cells?
They produce new cells that protect the sperm.
Good. They produce the immune cells that protect. So you see, the 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 testis, it doesn't want problem. So when it produces the sperm, it has given it its own security man. It will not come and depend on the body's immune system. That's how wonderful it is. So more like the scrotum is like an independent country on its own. They have their own military people. They will not come and depend on the body's immune system. So the semiferous tubules, they contain the germinal cells. The germinal cells produce the sperm. Then they produce a security man for the sperm too, in addition. It doesn't want any trouble for the sperm. Okay, so they produce the sperm and also produce the Sertoli cells. Then the Sertoli cells produce immune cells that protects the sperm. Is that okay? And that is very beautiful. Then in between the semiferous tubules, we have the interstitial cells. What's the function of the interstitial cells? Yes, what's the function of the interstitial cells? Yes, what's the function of the interstitial cells?
Sir,
Produces the male sex hormone. That's the
Good.
testosterone.
Excellent. They produce the male sex hormones. That's the testosterone. Simple as that. So if we ask you, okay, what do we have inside the testis? Mention two things that we have inside the testis. So inside the testis, mention any structures you know that are inside the testis. What we've mentioned so far.
Seminiferous and germinal
The
cells.
semiferous tubules. What is inside the semiferous tubules?
The germinal cells.
Or what's the function of the germinal cells?
Produces sperms and
It
Sertoli.
produces the sperm and the Sertoli cells. What's the function of the Sertoli cells?
They produce immune cells that protects the sperm.
Good. They produce immune cells that protects the sperm, and they also
And
form the
also acts as
blood.
blood testis
They
barrier.
form the blood testis barrier. Excellent. Great. And then what produces the testosterone in the testis? What produces the testosterone in the testis?
The Leydig or
The Leydig
interstitial
cells
cell.
or the interstitial cells. Is that okay? The Leydig or interstitial cells. Is that okay? Very interesting. So you see, look at how the thing goes. So you see, when the semiferous tubules produces the sperm, it goes through this tube. Look at this tube. You see, this tube is connected to the semiferous tube. We call it straight tubules. Say straight tubules.
Straight
Straight
tubule.
tubules. Say it again. Say
Straight
straight
tubule.
tubules. From the
Straight
straight
tubules.
tubules. So every semiferous tubule is connected to a straight tubule. So look, so this semiferous tubule, you can see a straight tubule. This one too is having a straight tubule. This one too is having a straight tubule. This one is having a straight. All the semiferous tubules are connected to a straight. Then all the straight tubules also join a tube, like a network of tubes that we call the reti testis. Say reti testis.
Reti testis.
Say it again. Say reti testis. Reti
Reti
testis.
testis.
Reti testis.
Reti testis.
Good. Then all the reti testes also join another duct. We call it the efferent ductus. Before the efferent ductus joins the epididymis. Remember, the sperms are produced in the testes. Then they are moved into the epididymis to be stored. So that's the sequence. So it is produced in the semiferous tubules. Then from the semiferous tubules, so I will go and I'm summarizing it. Then someone will also explain. This is how it goes. So the sperms are produced by the germinal cells in the semiferous tubules. Then they move into the straight tubules. From the straight tubules into the reti testis. From the reti testis into the efferent ductus. From the efferent ductus into the epididymis. So again, the sperms are produced in the semiferous tubules. From the semiferous tubules into the the straight tubules. From the straight tubules into the reti testis. From the reti testis into the efferent ductus. From the efferent ductus into the epididymis. For the last time, the sperms are produced by the germinal cells in the semiferous tubules. From the semiferous tubules, they are moved into the straight tubules. From the straight tubules into the reti testis. From the reti testis into the efferent ductus. And from the efferent ductus into the epididymis. Who can summarize what I've just explained? Yes. Yes, let's have one of you to summarize what I've just explained.
Sir, please, you said the sperm is produced by the germinal or the epithelium cells in the
Okay.
semiferous tubules, and then
Excellent. Great.
it moved to the straight tubules.
Straight
Then
tubules. Excellent.
then to the network of um
Tubules. The network of
tubules.
tubules.
Yes,
Called
that's the rate testis.
reti testis. Excellent. Great.
Yes. Then
From there,
it moved to the efferent
ductus.
ductus.
Good.
Then it moved to the epididymis to be stored over there.
Good. So in exams, let me show you a simple thing we can do. In exams, we can give you one of the following is the correct pathway of sperm is a correct pathway of sperm production. Then you see A, semiferous tubules, then an arrow will come. Straight tubules, another arrow will come. Reti testis, then another arrow will come. Efferent ductus. Then you see B, semiferous tubule, arrow will come. Reti testis, arrow will come. Epididymis, arrow will come. Straight tubules. You know that one is wrong. Then another one, C. We will start with the straight tubules. So you will look at it and choose the correct one. It's an area we use to examine students a lot. Okay, great. So from the semiferous tubules to the straight tubules to the reti testis to the efferent ductus. Okay, from the semiferous tubules to the straight tubules to the reti testis to the efferent ductus to the epididymis. Is that okay? So pay attention. So when you see semiferous tubules, then the arrow will come, straight tubules, another arrow will come, reti testis, another arrow will come, efferent ductus. That's the correct answer. Is that okay? That one is the correct answer. Okay, then the epididymis will be the last. Okay, if you see semiferous tubules to reti testis, wrong. Semiferous tubules to efferent ductus, wrong. Efferent ductus to epididymis, wrong. Okay, so it has to be semiferous tubules 2, straight tubules 2, reti testis 2, efferent ductus 2, epididymis. That's the correct pathway. Okay, that is fine. What is the name given to the cord that contains the vas deferens, the blood vessels, and the nerve supply to the scrotum? Sorry, to the testis.
Spermatic cord.
Good, spermatic cord. So you see it over here. You see over here, we have spermatic cord. So spermatic cord, we have the vas deferens. Okay, this is the vas deferens. So this is the vas deferens. So now you know what is in the testis. So now let me ask you, what can you see inside the testis? This is the testis. Mention all the things you can see inside the testis. So now, if you never knew what is in the testis, today you know what is in the testis. Okay, so this is what is inside the testis. Mention all the structures you can see inside the testis. Yes, I'm waiting.
Efferent ductus.
Come again.
Efferent ductus.
Oh, I can't hear you. Can you amplify your voice a little? We can't hear you.
So we have the straight tubules.
We have the straight tubules. Yes, we have the straight tubules.
The semiferous tubules.
We have the semiferous tubules.
We have the efferent ductus.
We have the efferent ductus.
Yes, and then we have the tunica abuginals.
Yes, so we have a layer. So you see, we have a layer of tissue around the testis. Now, the innermost layer, we call it the tunica albuginea. Okay, the tunica albuginea. We have 2 layers of tissues around it. So we can ask you, and that is also an examinable area we can ask you. What's the innermost layer of tissue around the scrotum? Sorry, around the testis. That's the tunica albuginea. And then what's the outermost layer? Tunica vaginalis. Is that okay? So you see, males, we are very, you see, we've taken your name as part of our layers. Males are we are very considerate people. You see, even our labeling of our structures, we add female, related names. Tunica vaginalis. Okay, that's the outermost layer of tissue around the testis. Okay, so we have 2 layers of tissues around the testis. The innermost layer is what we call the tunica albuginea, and then the outermost layer, we call it the tunica vaginalis. Is that okay? You can also see it over here. So you can see the tunica albuginea. Is that okay? Then we have the tunica, the outermost layer, which is the tunica vaginalis. Okay, what is straight? When we say straight tubule, what does it mean? Yes, straight tubule. Say it as you are seen on the diagram. Don't try to say it as you are seeing. if we ask you to describe this diagram, straight tubule, what will you say about it? Yes, straight tubule. What will you say about it? Yes. Who can? Yes, who wants to try?
So it's a straight tube that forms a cluster of tubes at the ray testis.
Oh, you are making it complex to make it simple. It conveys the sperm
It's the tips.
from the semiferous tubule
Yes.
to the rete testis. Make it simple for yourself. Eh? It's a tube conveying the sperm from the semiferous tubule to the rete testis. Simple. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
What will
sir.
you say about the rete testis? What will you say about the rete testis? Yes. What will you say about the rete testis?
So please,
Say
it's
what
a
we are seeing
network.
there.
It's a
Uh-huh.
network of tubules
Uh-huh. 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 All right.
that connects to the efferent ductus.
They channel the
Excellent.
sperm
That
out
is it.
of the oh,
Yes.
okay.
That is it.
But can you say it
Good.
channels
So
the
it's
sperm out of
you,
the testis? Hello.
good. You can also say it conveys the sperm from the straight tubules to the efferent ductus, or it connects the straight tubules to the efferent ductus. Simple as that. Okay. What will you say about the efferent ductus? Yes. What will you say about the efferent ductus? Yes. What will you say about the efferent ductus?
So it connects the rete testis to the epididymis, or it conveys the sperms from the rete testis to be stored in the epididymis. Thank you.
Good. Excellent. Yes, excellent. That is great. Yes. It shows that you are following what we are. Yes, excellent. Good. So basically that is it. So we have the semiferous tubules, the straight tubules, the rete testis, the efferent ductus, the epididymis. What is inside the semiferous tubules? Yes, what do we have inside the semiferous tubules?
Sir, please, the germinal cells.
Germinal cells.
Good. The germinal cells. What do they produce?
They produce the sperms.
Good. They produce the sperm. Is that all they produce?
And
And Sertoli
Sertolin
cells.
cells.
Good. What's the function of the Sertoli cells?
Produces immune cells that protect the
That protects
sperm
the
and
sperm. Good.
the
They also
sperm
form the
and
blood
forms blood
blood
testis
testis
barrier.
barrier. Good. Excellent. Good. Where do we have the Leydig cells? Or where do we have the Leydig cells? Where do we have the Leydig cells?
Between the seminiferous.
Good. In between. So here, in between here, these areas that you are, the spaces that you are seeing, in between all the semiferous tubules, we have the Leydig cells. They are not pointed over here, but practically that is how they are. So between the semiferous tube, we have the Leydig cells in between. Okay, so in between all the semiferous tubules, we have the Leydig cells. Okay, and the Leydig cells, they produce the male sex hormones. Is that okay? Great. That's the testosterone. Now look at the epididymis. The epididymis is divided into three parts. The epididymis has three parts. This part of that's the lower part. We call it the tail. the part that is going to connect to the vas deferens. And we can ask you in exams that, okay, the part of the the part of the epididymis that connects to the vas deferens is known as, that's the tail of the epididymis. So when we ask you the portion the to the vas deferens is known as, that's the tail of the epididymis. The portion of the body of the epididymis, this is what we call the body of the epididymis. This is the body. And this is the head of the epididymis. This is what we call the head of the epididymis. The head of the epididymis. All the innermost layer of tissue around the testis. The layer of tissue around the testis.
Tunica abugine.
So, tunica albuginea. Tunica albuginea. What's the name given to the outer layer of tissue around the testis?
Tunica vaginalis. Vaginalis.
Good. Tunica vaginalis. Yes. So this is how interesting. This is the testis. You see, it's very interesting. Yes, it's very interesting. What is when we say cryptochidism? What does it mean? Cryptochidism. What does it mean?
It is the failure of testes to descend into the scrotum.
Okay. Okay, that is fine. That is fine. So when the baby is uterine, usually where are the testes located?
In the stomach.
In the abdomen. No. Don't say stomach. If you say stomach and you said something different, don't say that, please. Hey, if it's the testes in the stomach, they are acid or burn it too. It's inside the abdomen. Is that okay? Yeah, so keep it. It's inside the abdomen. Is that okay? If you say abdomen, it's a different space altogether. And we have different compartments. Is that okay? All right. Good. So we have again another that I didn't mention. You remember the Sertoli cells that produces the immune cells that protects the sperm. That Sertoli cells also produce a certain hormone. We call it inhibin. Say it. Say inhibin. Inhibin. What this hormone does is that this hormone also can stop the sperm production. So in a situation more sperms are being produced, we have enough of sperms in the epididymis, then the inhibin will be produced to stop the germinal cells from producing or further producing more sperms. So you see, the Sertoli cells are very important. One, it produces immune cells that protect the sperm. Two, it can also give a command for production to stop for a while in a situation where more sperms have been produced. Is that okay? So, and that is what controls the sperm in inhibin. Is that okay? Great? So know all the. So you should know the function of the Sertoli cells, the function of the germinal cells, what they do, the semiferous tubules, the Leydig cells or the interstitial cells. Is that okay? Okay. So basically, that's the testis. Okay, that's the testis. Okay. So now let's go and look at. We've learned that the testis produce the sperm, or the germinal cells in the testis produces the sperm and the Sertoli cell. Now let's go and study the sperm itself, the sperm cell. Okay, so we are going to look at the sperm cell. Is that okay? The sperm cell. Okay, the sperm cell. Now this is how the sperm cell look like. Look at how the diagram looks like. This is how the sperm cell look like. The sperm cell. You can also call it spermatozoon. Okay, when we say spermatozoon, it's the same as sperm cell. Or you can call it the male gamete. The gamete. Okay, or you can call it spermatozoon. Okay, the sperm cell. This is how it looks like. The sperm cell. So let's look at the divisions. So we have the head. the stem cell is basically divided into two main regions. So we have the head. So the whole of this part, this area, from this area up, the whole of this area, from here down to this part, we call it the head. And right from this part down is called the tail. Let me go over it again. The whole of this area, from the top here to this point, we call it the head. From here to this point, we call it the head. And from this region down to this point, we call it the tail. So let me go over it again. From here down here, we call it the head. And this region down to this point, we call it the tail. So you see, basically it has two main parts. But then the tail region can be divided. So the tail region further divided. So it can be further divided into three. So the tail region from this point to this point, we call the mid piece. Say it after me. Say mid piece. Say mid piece.
Mid
Good.
piece.
Good. And then from this point, from the mid piece, this point down to this point, we call it the principal piece. Say principal piece.
Principal piece.
Good. Then the latter portion, we call it the terminal piece. Say terminal piece. Terminal piece. So the sperm cell is basically two main parts. We have the head. So from here to here is the head. And then from the proximal center, so from this point of the head down to this terminal area, we call it the tail. But then the tail is divided into three regions. The tail can be divided into three regions. So we have the mid piece, we have the principal piece, and then we have the terminal piece. The mid piece, the principal piece, and we have the terminal piece. The mid piece, the principal piece, and we have the terminal piece. Okay, great. Now let's look at the head and the structures within the head. So the head, we have the very tip of the head, we call it the acrosomal cap. This area, this very part of the head where I'm going around. The part that has been labeled, I don't know whether, what's the color? The ladies are good with colors. So is it mauve color? I don't know whether I'm seeing right. Yes, so I think it's more like a mauve color. This is a wine color, and I'm saying mauve. Which one is mauve?
The down one is
the mauve. Hey, I don't know colors. So okay, so they said it's a wine color. Yes, so this is a wine color. Yes, so the part that is more like the labeled color, we call it the acrosomal cap. Is that okay? The acrosomal cap. This area, the acrosomal cap. Is that okay? The acrosomal. Within that acrosomal, so over here, then from the acrosomal cap, we have the acrosome. Okay, the acrosome is the space inside the head. When we say the acrosome, more like the space within the head itself. That's what we call the acrosome. Then within the acrosome, we have the nucleus. So the nucleus is within the acrosome. It's the space within the head of the sperm cell is what we call the acrosome. And we have the nucleus. Okay, then the nucleus, around the nucleus, we have the nuclear membrane. Around the nucleus, we have the nuclear membrane. Is that okay? Then this down part, we call it centriole. This area, this structure over here, we call it the proximal centriole. The proximal centriole. Is that okay? From the proximal centriole, before we are coming to the mid piece, for mid piece, with the mitochondria within, we have the mitochondria. Okay, and within the inside the means we have inside. In the we have axon. Okay, and the terminal part of it is we terminal part of the arms.
Because
So yes, so the piece has axial filament. Axial filament helps with the with the movement of the sperm, the axial
Sir,
filament. It
please, your
forms the
line is
tail.
breaking.
Oh, but I'm here now, right?
It's still breaking.
Hey, Vicky, can
Oh,
you do?
I'm here.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
No,
Yes.
please.
Is it a problem for all? Is it a problem for all of you?
Yes. Because of the rain.
Oh, but you've been able to respond to me perfectly. That it means you are hearing me.
Sir, it's okay now.
It's better now. That is fine. Okay, great. So we have, yeah. So let me take it up again. So we have the head. Within the head, we have the acrosomal cap. This is what we call the acrosomal cap. Okay, and then the space within the head is called the acrosome. So inside the acrosome, we have the nucleus. Around the nucleus, we have the nuclear membrane. Nuclear membrane is like a membrane around the nucleus. Then this part of the head, we call it the proximal centriole. The proximal centriole. The proximal centriole. Is that okay? This proximal centriole is responsible for mitotic division. It plays a role in mitotic division. We will come to all that processes. Then we have from here we are coming to the tail. And I told you the tail is divided into three. We have the mid piece, the principal piece, and the terminal piece. Now within the mid piece, we have the mitochondria. So this is what we call, you see the dash that you are seeing. This dots that you are seeing, that's the mitochondria. Then in the middle of the mid piece, we have the dense fibers and we have the axoneme. Is that okay? The dense fibers. The axonemes and the dense fibers, they provide motile support. They help with, structural support, or what we call motile support to the sperm cell. Okay, then we have the annulus. The annulus, when we say an annulus, is the junction between the mid piece and the principal piece. Okay, it's a junction between the mid piece and the principal piece. A junction between the mid piece and the principal piece. Is that okay? Some books, they will say a junction between the mid piece and then the tail. Okay, but remember, the mid piece is also considered part of the tail. So practically, the annulus is a junction between the mid piece and the tail. Okay, the mid piece and then the principal piece. Great. Then we have the principal piece. The principal piece, within the principal piece, we have the axial filament. Within the principal piece, we have the axial filament. Is that okay? Then we have the terminal piece. The terminal piece. Okay, the terminal piece. Let me go over it for the last time. So we have the head. What are the two main divisions of the sperm cell?
The head.
Head and a tail.
Good. The head and the tail. The tail can further be divided into how many divisions?
Three.
Three.
Three divisions. What are the three divisions?
The mid
The
The
piece,
mid
mid
piece,
piece,
the principal
principal
piece,
piece,
principal
and
and
the
the
piece,
terminal
and
terminal
the
piece.
piece.
terminal piece.
And the terminal piece. Okay. Now let's go into the head. Within the head, we have the acrosomal cap. Okay, the acrosomal cap. Now, the acrosomal cap, what it does is that is the area that contains the enzyme. You see, when the sperm cell gets to the female egg, it has to produce an enzyme so that it will be able to penetrate and enter the egg. That enzyme comes from the acrosomal cap. So when this sperm cell, when it gets to the female egg, it's an enzyme. That enzyme is what will let it penetrate and enter, the female egg cell. Is that okay? That enzyme is within the acrosomal cap. So the acrosomal cap basically contains enzymes that helps the sperm cell to penetrate the outer egg layers. Then we have the acrosome. The acrosome is more like the space within the head. Then we have the nucleus. Then we have the nuclear membrane. Then we have the proximal centriole. Okay, the proximal centriole is basically classified part of the midpiece. So from here coming down, so we have the proximal centriole. What does it do? It helps with mitotic division or cell division. Okay, sperm cell division. It plays a role in the sperm cell division. Okay, then so we have the midpiece start from the proximal centriole. The midpiece start from the proximal centriole. down to the annulus. The mid piece starts from where? The proximal cell down to the annulus. Then we have the mitochondria. What does it do? The mitochondria is what generates energy. When we say mitochondria, that is what generates energy for the sperm cell. Okay, so when we ask you which part of the sperm cell generates energy for it, that's the mitochondria. It generates energy for the sperm cell. Okay, then we have the dense fibers and axonemes. They help with the sperm support and motile support for the sperm cell. Okay, from there, so we have the annulus. What is the annulus? The annulus is the junction between the mid piece and then the tail of the sperm. From the annulus, we come down to the principal piece. What is inside the principal piece? That's the axial filament. What's the work of the axial filament? It's for movement. It's part of the tail, so it's purposely for movement. And then we have the terminal piece. What is the terminal piece? That's the very narrow tip. The narrow tip of the sperm. The narrow terminal tip of the sperm. That's what we call the terminal piece. Is that okay? All right. Who can describe the sperm cell just like I've done? Who can describe the sperm cell just like I've done? Yes. Yes, who can do it?
So, sir,
Yes, go ahead.
you said the sperm cell is being divided into two, which is the head and the
Okay.
tail. And then when
All
it comes
right.
to the tail, it is divided into three, which is the mid piece,
Okay.
principal piece, and the terminal piece. And then when we talk about the
Okay.
head, that is the acrosomal cap. That is the tip of the head.
Okay.
And it contains
Okay.
enzyme. And then inside, we have the acrosome, which is the space inside the head.
Good.
And then we have the
Good.
nucleus inside the acrosome. And then around the nucleus, we
Good.
have the membrane. And then we have
All
the
right.
central, is it centrally? Something like that. Which is responsible for
Central.
it is responsible for mitotic division.
Good.
And
Excellent.
then we have the mitochondria.
Good.
Yes, that one is inside the mid piece. And then we have the dense
All right.
fibers. That one too is inside the
Okay.
mid. And the dense
Okay.
fiber that is support it's a sperm support. Then we have
Okay.
the azonim or something like that.
Okay.
And then from
Axoneme.
there, azonim. Then from there we have the annulus, which is the junction between the mid piece and the tail.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah. Then we come to the
Then we come
principal.
to the principal piece. Good.
Yes.
What is inside the principal piece?
Is the portion where the sperm is whip-like
No,
motion.
what is inside the principal piece? What structure do we have in the principal piece? The axial filament.
You said the
The
axial.
axial filament.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, is it? Can you see the axial filament inside the mid piece? Principal piece, sorry, inside the principal piece? Yes, so that's the axial filament. What's the axial filament? Movement.
It's for movement.
For movement of the sperm.
Yes.
Good. Then talk about the terminal piece. What's the function of the terminal piece? It's also for movement. That's the narrow tip or narrow portion or tip portion of the sperm cell.
Yeah.
Is that okay? So basically, this is what we call the sperm cell. This is the structure and function of the sperm cell. If we ask you to draw a well-labeled diagram of the sperm cell, this is what we want you to draw. Is that okay? If you are asked to draw and label the diagram of the sperm cell, this is what we want you to draw. Is that okay?
Sir.
Yes, please.
Please, is the proximal central also the neck of the sperm?
Oh, it's not the neck. Oh, proximal central is not basically the neck. It's a structure. You see, it's more like a structure inside. Though it's not the neck region. Is that okay? Yes. So don't see. You see, we are pointing to a certain. Can you see? There's a certain structure in there. Can you see?
Yes, sir.
Good. So if we are not pointing to the junction. There is a structure in there. Can you see there is a label structure in here? Can you see it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good. That's the proximal centriole. Yes. But
Okay.
if you are pointing here and you want to call it the neck of the neck of the sperm cell, that is fine. But the proximal centriole is not. You can say it's within the neck region. So that's the best thing that I can accept for you to say. You can say the proximal centriole is within the neck region. Is
Okay,
that okay?
sir.
But it's not the neck of the stem cell. So you can say it's within the neck region of the sperm cell. That is fine.
Sir,
Okay.
please, what
Yes,
did you
please.
say is the function of the dense fibers?
The dense fibers plus the axoneme, all of them are responsible for motile support or movement. Okay. So they
Okay.
basically provide movement for the sperm cell support for the sperm cell during movement.
Okay.
Is that, or in anatomy we say motile support. When we say motile support, it means support during movement. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, that is so. Basically, that is it for the sperm cell. I think we can end over here. My plan was to do 1 hour and 30 minutes. I think we've done almost an hour and 40 minutes. Okay, so for now we can end over here for for today. Is that okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay, that's fine.